Hi friends, my name is Grace and today I'm going to show you how I budget for a new month. I'm going to walk you through the entire process of how I set up my budget, how I track expenses, all doing it through my budget template, which is linked down below in my description box if you want to check it out. Okay, the very first thing I do when I'm setting up my budget is I actually don't even go into my budget template yet. I like to look at my Google Calendar. If you don't have a calendar already, you gotta get one, I swear. When you're budgeting for a new month, you wanna look ahead at what is coming up and make sure that your budget actually reflects that and allows you to spend for what you have coming up. So for example, looking at my calendar for October, I can see that I have a therapy appointment every week, which means that I need to make sure I budget for those copays. Because this is October, I don't have any plans yet, but if say on a Saturday I was going to a concert, I'd want to make sure that I plan for that. So by looking at your calendar, you can see, okay, here's what's coming up for this month, here's what I need to budget so I can spend accordingly at all of those things. Now that you know what's coming up, you're going to go into your budget template and start to fill things in. The first thing you're going to want to do is add in your income for the month. If you have a consistent paycheck where you get paid the same amount maybe once per month or bi-weekly, this will be super easy. If you're like me and you have variable income, I like to budget 1 month ahead. So for example, everything I made in September would be what I'm actually budgeting with in October. For the sake of the example, we're just going to use a consistent income of someone who makes $5,000 a month after taxes. When you fill that information in, the budget template's automatically going to update to show that you have $5,000 left to budget with. As you start to allot money into all of your categories, that number will change. That's just so you don't have to do the math the entire time thinking, how much money do I have left to work with? It'll automatically calculate it for you. Then you're going to move to start with your bills and needs. These are non-negotiables in your budget, things that your budget cannot exist without. Usually things like rent, groceries, utilities, car payments, debt payments, etc. So in this example, we're gonna say that you spend $1,500 on rent. We're gonna say car insurance is $250, utilities are $80. Ooh, car insurance, just kidding. And we're gonna say it's $37, utilities $80, pet insurance $25, groceries $250, car payment $250. Credit card payment, we're gonna say you're paying $167 and your student loan payment is $385 a month. Once you've plugged all that information in, again, you're gonna see the money left to budget with section will update, and that's because you've now put numbers in. You'll see that the money left to spend this month section still has $5,000 as the actual amount left, and that's because we haven't tracked any expenses yet, which I'll show you how to do in a little bit. After I put my bills and needs in, I always go to my debt payments because debt is a priority to me right now. I've got some student loans I want to get rid of, so I might say, okay, I'm putting an extra $600 a month onto my student loan payment. Same thing if you had credit cards, you could put an extra, say, $300 a month onto your credit card. After that, I always do my savings and investments because for me, debt is a priority right now, and I do have savings goals, but they're coming after debt for me. Investing is also a really big priority for me, so I will always put that into that category, but I do put my savings in only if I have money after my debt payments and investments. I just added in some random numbers into this section to show you the money left to budget with section is now updated, and then we can go over into our wants and other expenses to see what we're spending. So based on this, we have $481 left to budget with, and this is where I'll say, okay, this month I want to allot $200 to eating out, and I am going to a concert and I know I'm gonna end up getting drinks and snacks, so I'm gonna allot $75 there. Getting my hair done, which is usually around $150, and then it will show that I have $56 left to budget with, which I can do whatever I want with it. I'm going to put that into entertainment. Now it's going to show that you have $0 left to budget with, and it might seem counterintuitive, like why would I want to have nothing left at the end of the month? But the idea with a zero-based budget, which is what this is called, is that at the end, you want to make sure that every single one of the dollars you work hard to earn is working for you. You should be spending it on something meaningful for you, saving it towards a meaningful goal, investing it towards the future, or putting it towards debt. Having money just lingering in your bank account isn't doing anything for you, so make sure that after you've plugged in all your numbers, it shows that you have $0 left to budget with. I have absolutely loved using Google Sheets for a budget template, and I get a lot of people who ask, well, why don't you just use an app that can automate it every single month so you don't have to do it manually? But I will say doing it manually forces you to actually think through all of your expenses, all of your budget categories, to think about how you're prioritizing your goals in a way that I just don't think apps do. When apps automate your expenses, bringing them in and categorizing them, you're not forced to really think it through. You just open the app and see, oh, am I on track or am I over budget? And that's that. When you're manually inputting them, it forces you to think about, did I actually value that expense? Was that an impulse purchase, or did I really purchase that because I wanted that item? And I think that that is super helpful and has helped me with the whole psychology of like managing my money. If you've never tried a Google Sheet budget template before, I would definitely recommend it. I do have this template that I built linked down below in the description box if you want to grab it. Once we have everything plugged into our budget template, our budget is good to go and we're all set. Now it comes time to actually track expenses. One of the things I love about Google Sheets that I just feel like apps can't do is that Google Sheets is fully customizable, and my template was built to be 100% customizable. What I hate about apps is when the categories are pre-named, or there's only a certain number of categories you can choose from, because sometimes I feel like those category names just don't actually fit the way my brain works. Like for example, in my own budget, I have a category called Fun Food Random. It's for food and eating out with friends, random miscellaneous things, and anything I deem to be fun. There's no app with that exact name. It must be customized. So when you track expenses in my budget template, you'll notice that whatever you input into the category sections in any of the categories, it will automatically populate in the category dropdown. So it's super easy to track your expenses and it's 100% customizable. That was super important to me. Your budget should work for you. It shouldn't be stifling. It shouldn't force you to name a category something simply because there's no more options or there's not an option that fits the name of the category. It should be 100% customizable. So throughout the month, I'll just come in here and I'll copy over my transactions from my bank account or my credit card account. So for example, let's say that you paid rent on the first of the month. You'll come in and add that in. Let's say you go to dinner with some friends. I typically do this once per week because I feel like that's a good amount for me, but sometimes if I feel like I'm spending a lot more, I will come in twice a week just to stay on track and do more frequent check-ins to see if my budget is looking good or if I'm looking like I'm gonna go over. Okay, so I added in a couple more transactions to show you what it would be like. Again, I would just copy everything over straight from my credit card account or my bank account with all the information, and then I just give it a little description. Whenever you track an expense, it will automatically update in the respective category in the budget template. So for example, you'll notice that because we tracked rent, it'll automatically show that you budgeted $1,500 for rent, you actually spent $1,500 for rent, and that means you have zero left over in that category. Most of the expenses I tracked for this week were related to eating out and the concert that I went to. So it'll show that I actually spent $50 so far eating out, meaning I have $150 left, and I spent $43.41 at the concert, so I actually have $31.59 left over in that category. You'll notice that the money left to spend this month category will update, which I love because then throughout the month I'm able to see how much money I have left to spend overall. This is helpful if I have an unexpected expense where I'm like, oh shoot, I have to pay for something I was not expecting, or oh my gosh, like my doctor appointment cost way more than I anticipated and now I'm worried about having enough money overall. So if your budget does absolutely go to crap, you can always just refer back to that section to see, am I within budget? Meaning, am I on track to spend less than I made this month? I'm gonna pull the budget from January to show you what it looks like kind of at the end of the month and what happens if you go over budget. Now, this has definitely happened to me before. In January, I was traveling and I severely underestimated how much entertainment and miscellaneous expenses were going to add up in my budget that month. And you can see that I was in the red on entertainment and I was in the red on miscellaneous, and that put me in the red overall in my wants and other expenses category. As a visual person, this just like scratches an itch in my brain for it to turn red when you go over. So this is a really good indicator when you're looking at your budget of, okay, am I over in any category? And if so, you know, how much over am I and how does that impact my budget as a whole? You can see in other categories that I was under budget. So for example, in the food/eating out category, I still had $114 left over at the end of the month. And that gave me the cushion that I needed when I went over in other categories. If whenever I get to the end of the month, I have money left over overall in that wants and other expenses category, I'll usually use that to add onto my debt payments or to put towards my savings or investment goals, or sometimes I'll move it into a sinking fund that I have for something fun, like my self-care sinking fund, or I have a sinking fund right now to get some laser hair removal. So I'll like move it into those things. But you don't always have to use leftover funds for something that feels like financially responsible or wise. You can use it for something that is simply fun and supports you living your actual life, okay? Okay, so that's how I set up my budget for a new month. I hope this was helpful. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you want to grab the budget template, make sure to grab it in the description box down below. I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.